What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 42 of Breaking Bats, presented by Not For Long Media. I'm your host, Brian O'Grady, and with me, as always, my co-host, J.A. Justin Ayers. What's up, dude? How you doing today?
I'm good, dude. Yes, look, after baseball season ends, after the World Series ends, it's gonna be a lot of coming home. You're leaving in the morning and it's dark. You're to come home and it's dark. There's no baseball on during the middle of the week, so you have to figure out what you're gonna fill your time with if you're not a football fan. So it's not my favorite time of the year, but the hot stove is about to kick up, baby. We're about to warm our hands around the fire that is the MLB hot stove. We already had a couple, minor to semi-minor moves here, but we have a lot of free agency stuff to talk about, and we're gonna clean up Game 6 of the World Series. So if you're a Phillies fan, I'm sorry. We just got to get it out of the way. Rip the Band-Aid.
Yep. Yeah, there's a whole lot's about to happen here soon. You know, teams get that little break to kind of gather themselves again, and then as soon as one of those dominoes falls, a lot more is coming. But got to give a shout out to you first because you called it, man. You went Astros in 6. You were right. I was not right. So tip the old cap there to you, JA. You, even though I don't believe you had any of those teams in the World Series, you called the World Series right. So we'll give you that.
I appreciate the props. Yes, I wish I had this prediction like before the playoffs started when we had that big bracket made and we had all the logos, and damn, how sick would that have been? But to call it right before the World Series, it's a minor victory, but it's a victory nonetheless. So I appreciate the credit there. You had Phillies in 7. We were close. The Phillies could have done it in 7, dude. So I wouldn't beat yourself up too bad about it. If the bats would have came alive, which we'll talk about in a minute. But yeah, it's just nice to finally win one, to quote Kevin Malone.
Yep. I was definitely been losing some sleep over it, but I'll get by somehow. So,
Yeah.
you win some, you lose some.
Look, I mean, I want to give a shout out to Brian's recording. If you're watching this on video, check us out on Breaking Bats Pod YouTube channel. For Brian, like during the course of the season when he was playing in Japan, he would go to these exorbitant hotels, these cool backdrops with like some cool wood and just like it was a fun thing to kind of follow when Brian was on the road this season. But Brian's back at his house, he's got the cool backdrop there, but I don't know. I'm a fan of this one today. You got the fish hanging on the wall. I know it's not your house, but I mean that's top 2 backdrop and it ain't 2.
Yeah, there's a lot of fish in here. There's a lot of good stuff. My in-laws do. My in-laws, my father-in-law, my both of my brother-in-laws do a whole lot of fishing, a whole lot of serious fishing, some trophy fishing, as you can see. Our fans of the Step Brothers movie will understand that. But yeah, so we're getting some work done at my house for me. So we crashed here for the past 2 nights while it's going on. So this is my backdrop for tonight. But I love this place. Great place. Right on the water. Can't beat it. But yeah, man, this for this episode, I'm gifting you this backdrop.
It's a treat to be across the Zoom thing with this. So I appreciate that. So they're big fishermen. Are you a big fisherman? Or are you like are you into that kind of stuff?
I mean, I'd say I'm a casual fisherman. I don't. My wife's younger brother is that's like his life. It's all he does is fish. Loves to fish. It's amazing. Like I don't. I like fishing. It's relaxing. Enjoy catching fish. He's just like could do it all day, every day, nothing else. But they'll take their boat out to like the oil rigs in Louisiana and stuff, fish for legit tuna out there and like stay overnight and stuff. Like they're crazy. But yeah, it's serious. I don't do that. That doesn't sound very appealing to me. But if we're hanging out somewhere close to here, I'll definitely do some fishing.
Yeah, because I feel like if they're doing that kind of fishing, that's the stuff where it's like, we'll meet you at the docks at 4 a.m. And it's like, I like fishing, but I don't like getting up that early. I feel like that's always the case with these serious anglers.
Yeah, they love it. But dude, I mean, they bring back, some of those tunas or whatever they catch. Dude, and I mean, it's good stuff. So, you know, getting some food out of it too. It's not just catching fish, throwing it back. So I'll eat it. Whatever they bring back to cook, I'll definitely eat.
No doubt, dude. Well, yeah, this is cool. Maybe make a guest appearance back there at some point. Just show up randomly with like your laptop and just be like, hey guys, it's basement free for like 20 minutes. Yeah. Just mix it up.
Yep. This was my spot during the shutdown of COVID, because me and my wife didn't have our house yet. So we were staying with them when everything, the world stopped. So I was down here looking at these fish playing Call of Duty for a while the baseball was stopped, but good times. Not really. But anyway, whatever. Moving on. Let's who's this episode of All This Fish Talk sponsored by?
No, I think people are enjoying the fish talk. Let's not sell the fish talk short. This episode is brought to you by our friends at Som Sleep, though. If you're maybe getting up for one of those 4 a.m. Offshore fishing excursions, probably help you out. So if you're having trouble getting enough sleep at night, Som Sleep has you covered. The scientifically advanced Som snack includes ingredients that are naturally found in your body like GABA, magnesium, and melatonin. Sleep is the best form of recovery, and it has helped people everywhere take their game to the next level. It's simple. All you have to do is drink one serving just 30 minutes before you go to bed, and your body will naturally calm itself down. Other sleep supplements leave you feeling groggy in the morning, but not Som Sleep. Wake up feeling refreshed and ready to conquer the day. Go to getsom.com, click shop, and enter the code BATS, B-A-T-S, at checkout for 10% off of your entire order of Som Sleep. All right, we teased it. We're going to clean up the World Series. The Astros won. So the Houston Astros on Saturday night, they defeated the Philadelphia Phillies 4-1. This was their second World Series title in franchise history. And a little fun fact for you, they became the first team to clinch at home since the 2013 Boston Red Sox. Which, good God, we had to wait like a decade for that. It's always been on the road, which is just crazy to think about. But if we want to talk about Game 6, the big story, I think, from this game was Zach Wheeler getting the early hook. 5 1/3 innings. They bring in Alvarado. He gives up the go-ahead 3-run home run to Yordan Alvarez, and that was pretty much it. So I was thinking back, because when you think World Series, you think about an early exit from a starting pitcher that's dealing. I'm going to give some numbers for you, and I want you to tell me if I'm off base, if I'm on the right track. So 2020, Wheeler went 5 1/3, 2 runs and 5 Ks. 2020 Game 6, Blake Snell, 5 1/3, 1 run, 9 Ks. Am I reading too much into this? Am I drawing like a weird connection here? Like, should people have a legit gripe that Wheeler got the early hook in a game like this?
I think it's hard to not go there for people who really follow baseball, right? I mean, being there with the Rays that year, Blake was shoving, and it seemed pretty apparent that really our only shot was going to be if Blake just shut them down that game. But, I'll get there in a second. But yeah, the same thing with Wheeler. I mean, he was pitching really well that game in the moment. And, both managers decided to go to the pen and be aggressive with that, which for both managers had worked during the season and during the playoffs, especially. So, Rob Thompson was really aggressive with how he used his pen right away in Game 1. Cashy was, that's just how Tampa kind of does it with the pen. They're aggressive with it. So, hindsight's 2020. As a player sitting there watching the games, in my mind, did I think the starters deserved to stay in there because they were throwing so well? Yes, that was my opinion of it. But, that's doesn't mean it's right. I think everyone feels that way. But again, if Alvarado comes in and strikes out Alvarez and, gets the rest of the outs, are we talking about it? I mean, Alvarez hit a 99-mile-an-hour fastball to the moon. So, pretty tough at bat right there. And he was just better. So yeah. I would have liked to see Wheeler stay in, sure. But at the same time, it worked for Rob Thompson earlier in the game. And all the baseball purists are going to be like, hey, the starters got to pitch more. And I get that. And, if it was my call, I probably would have agreed with that. But, Rob Thompson did such a great job all year with the Phillies to get him back there. And same with Cash that year. It's hard to just kill those guys for that one decision. What do you think?
I think there's a lot of factors that play into this. Zach Wheeler's arm fatigue throughout the postseason definitely was a thing. So they were trying to be mindful of that. They hadn't really let the big dog eat in terms of throwing a lot of innings. I think in the NLCS, maybe he went 7 innings, but his pitch count was never like super, super high. The other thing was it was matchup. It was lefty lefty. Thompson was pulling the right strings for the most part up until this point. So you're right. There's a lot that kind of played into it from that perspective. So I mean, not to like rehash like a sore bad memory though, but like Blake Snell in 2020, like you play with him for 2 years, you obviously know a lot about him. You're very close with him, but like he's done interviews where he's talked about the early hook in that 2020 World Series. Did that really, like, what kind of effects and long lasting effects did that have for him? And like, did everybody in the moment know that was not the best decision at the time?
I never really talked to Blake about it afterwards because I think whatever he said, obviously he has a ton of respect for Kevin Cash and loves him, but of course he wanted to stay in that game too at the same time. Both can be true. So I never really felt the need to like ask Blake about that, but I mean, it's over with. You can't just dwell on it, but forever. Yeah, I'm sure Blake's going to be kind of mad about that for his career, but in the moment, yeah, it seemed like that was our best chance to win if Blake was just going to go out there and keep shutting down that lineup like he had. But that was the Rays formula, and it got us there, and that's what they did. And but I think he just sometimes, and these are all really smart baseball guys, right? Like Rob Thompson has been around the game a long time. It's not like they don't know what they're. Again, and hindsight's 2020. I would leave those guys in, but that's not what it's definitely not the decisions I get paid to make for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I just thought it was interesting, especially with the similarities there, the early hook, the 5 1/3, it's game 6, same
Absolutely.
thing. So, yeah, so we can move off of that. It's okay. A couple more things, and then we'll start talking a little free agency, though. I mean, the Phillies' lack of offense, I think, was definitely a factor in all of this. If we wouldn't be talking about this if they would have maybe came on and score a few more runs there late in Game 6. But should we assess the bats going quiet as probably a major source of this blame?
Yeah, I mean, listen, Game 3 in Philly, all the homers, it was like, uh-oh, this series is over. Philly will slug their way to World Series. And then Game 4 happens when they don't get any hits. And what Schwarber said is definitely true. Who gives a shit? It's over. We lost. We move on. And he responded with a homer the next game. But I mean, it's not fun. Like that swing and momentum there, going from that high of Game 3 where they're just every ball they're hitting is going over the fence to getting no hit at home in Philly. Like that does something for sure. So if nothing, if the Phillies shook it off, the Astros were rolling with that momentum. You know what I mean? The Astros were pumped about doing that and probably felt great to respond that way. So yeah, man, the Astros, you got to give them credit. I mean, aside from the no-hitter, Verlander finally, it sounds crazy to say, but threw really well in the World Series. And then that bullpen, man, that bullpen was just insane. And Framber Valdez was great too. So yeah, the Phillies bats, no show. I thought it was interesting, and I think my cousin texted me and asked me this, but they had Castellanos hitting behind Harper there, and now Castellanos, phenomenal hitter, but was struggled basically all year. Wasn't hitting what we're used to seeing him hit. And I just thought it was kind of interesting to have that lineup that way where you had him hitting behind Harper. And it's like, they're just the Astros. We're not going to let Harper beat them. That was like the end of the day. Harper wasn't going to be the one that took down the Astros. So it's like, could they have switched that up maybe and put him in the 2-hole and Real Muto there? I know they like the left. They don't probably want him and Schwarber too close together with that matchup, but I thought that was interesting how the Phillies rolled with that the whole time too.
Yeah, no, and going back to Verlander for a second, I was, it's funny to make fun of Justin Verlander. I've certainly done it a lot for how horrific he's been in World Series games, but in all seriousness with that, if his worst problem in his career is that like he's not great in the World Series. Like, I feel like that's an okay problem to have. That means you're getting to the World Series a lot. So, I think it's, don't get me wrong. And I was a big playoff Kershaw guy. I loved making fun of playoff Kershaw. That was hilarious for so long because it was true. No matter how hard he tried, and at some points I did feel bad, but it was just the same thing. But also, it's not a bad problem to have in the grand scheme of things. We're talking about like Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning for so long couldn't win the Super Bowl. And we're like, this guy stinks in the playoffs. Best regular season quarterback of all time. That's what I always would tell people. Tom Brady was the opposite. Regular season was good. Postseason was great. So it's all in perspective when you think about these things. But Justin Verlander finally figured it out. So score one for people named Justin.
It's only a matter of time, right? I mean, he's too good. They couldn't continue. For sure.
Last thing on this, does this put the Astros cheating scandal, like, does this put this in the rear view? Do you think in the minds of a lot of people? I didn't realize there's only 5 dudes from that team in 2017 left on this roster. Is this even a thing anymore, you think?
That's a great question. I think it will forever be a thing for the people who were, fans during that time, whether that's fans of the other teams that they beat or just fans of baseball, because I said it on here one of the other times, like a lot of people just feel they didn't get actually punished for it. So it's just like a non-stop vendetta they have against that, like the Astros organization, that they're still cheating. But dude, those guys are really good players. That team, I mean, they were the 1 seed in the AL. Like, they were the best team in baseball the entire year, really. So I don't think you could say anything about cheating for this team. And Jeremy Pena, Yordan Alvarez, like, these dudes, they're beasts, So I think if people are still talking about that, it's just because they're bitter about that whole situation still.
It would be funny though in like 20 years when like every player from that team is like retired, that there's still people out there harboring like, these Astros, bunch of cheaters. I just think that would be funny. Maybe if we can get some people out there to continue the grudge for a comically long period of time with the Astros, I think I wouldn't mind that. Now that I think about it, that would actually be kind of funny. Cheaters forever.
Just gonna pass it down to generations.
Yes, fathers gonna be telling their sons.
Gonna teach their sons.
Yeah, it's gonna be like that. So that's the last live baseball we have to talk about until pitchers and catchers report, which it's I don't know, I don't know when the date is. I should know at top of my head as a baseball fan, but we got a long winter ahead of us where not a lot of baseball to break down. So for that part, I'm sorry, but what a season. Covered it from start to finish on the Breaking Bats pod, and we'll continue to do that. It's gonna be great.
It's a great first season. Great first season for us, doing everything, figuring it out on the other side of the world from each other. So yeah. I'd say it was a success. What a great season. A lot of good stories, a lot of good teams, good moments. So baseball is I hate when everyone says baseball stinks and it's dead and we got to change all these things. And baseball's doing great and the players are phenomenal. And we will see about these changes that happen next year.
The next thing we have, I was actually just thinking about this because we wrapped up our predictions at the beginning of the season were horrific. None of us were remotely close. Although your breakout teams, you were 3 for 3 on breakout teams. Our World Series matchups were not even remotely close. MVPs and Cy Youngs though, got to keep track of that. I'm just gonna come out and say it. I don't think we're gonna get a single one right. I don't think we're gonna get a single one right.
In our defense, I do feel like we weren't trying to be like the most stock picks Ohtani of all time.
Do you remember who you had for MVP and Cy Young? Because it's not great. Although you might get one. One's close-ish.
I feel like Cy Young, I went like Gausman and Snell.
Yep.
And MVP, I went. I don't remember MVP. Vlad? No, not Vlad.
You went Mike Trout and Bryce Harper.
I mean, Trout was a solid pick. Harper.
I had Vlad Jr. and Juan Soto as my MVPs, and my Cy Youngs were Shane Bieber and Jacob deGrom.
the real question is, did you think Soto was going to win it as a member of the San Diego Pods?
I think if we're going to be technical about it, he should have won it last season in 2021, not Bryce Harper. Because if you look at the Baseball Reference breakdown, Soto had Harper in a lot of major statistical categories. So I think that one really should have been a toss up in the favor of Juan Soto. But that's neither here nor there. I was just looking. So the Cy Youngs come out on the 16th, and then the MVPs come out on the 17th. So it might be 2 episodes from now before we finally get to realize if your guys or my guys came away with the dubs there. So I don't know why I thought about that. That had nothing to do with what we're about to talk about. But we do have free agency news, and we start this one out with opt-outs galore. Good God. This week has been the week of opt-outs. The following players opted out of their deals and hit the open market: Jacob deGrom, Carlos Correa, Xander Bogaerts, Taijuan Walker, Carlos Rondon, Nelly Cruz, Jurickson Profar, Zach Davies, and Robert Suarez. There's going to be more. That was just the first crop of them. So this list I thought was really interesting. I'd love to just kind of take a second to talk about Jacob deGrom, because throughout the entire season, he was very vocal in saying, I'm opting out. The entire time. And anytime asked about it, probably even when he wasn't asked about it, he would probably say he's opting out of his contract with the New York Mets. But it's interesting because a lot of other guys in the Mets rotation are in the same kind of boat, like Taijuan Walker and Chris Bassett. Bassett had a mutual option. They're on the market. So that's 3/5 of your rotation. That's just kind of floating out there in free agency. Jon Hamm wrote an interesting piece that said the Yankees have a better chance to keep Aaron Judge than the Mets have a chance to keep Jacob deGrom. That might just be a New York sports kind of clickbaity headline, but is there any merit to that? Do you agree with Jon Hamm?
I think I do agree with him, because I think the Yankees have to sign Aaron Judge. I've said this. I think like if they don't re-sign him, it's all hell is breaking loose over there in the Bronx. But deGrom, I see it one of 2 ways. You're right. He was saying he was going to opt out, so it's either he's going to make Cohen pay him a whole lot of money to come back there and probably beat Scherzer's deal or whatever, or he's over it and he wants to go somewhere else. I mean, he's made some money, right? He can probably pick whatever team he wants. What team doesn't want Jacob deGrom?
Every team wants Jacob deGrom.
Maybe he'll go somewhere for a little bit of a discount that he really wants to be. I don't know. I don't know where he's from, but I know he went to Stetson in Florida. But the Braves have been floated out there that they were like the number 1 team to get him if he didn't re-sign with the Mets. So maybe he wants to be back down south or out in New York. I don't know. So it's definitely a really interesting one to follow.
He's from Florida. He's from DeLand, Florida. I don't know where that's at in relation to.
DeLand's it's not far from Orlando, by Orlando.
Okay. Florida guy.
Orlando, Daytona.
I don't necessarily think any of the Florida teams would pony up for him, but never know. I've heard the Braves a lot. I think I would love him to go to the Braves, just because that would make the New York Mets fans' heads explode. That would just be hilarious. But yeah, I mean, the Aaron Judge thing, we talked about it a lot for good reason, because a guy who hits that many home runs, 62, and he's on the free agent market. And I like how people in the Aaron Judge sweepstakes are pointing out he played a pretty good center field. Like, I don't know how much center field you necessarily want him to be playing, but it's just cool to hear how people are posturing him as like this, like, he can hit all these home runs, can run down some balls in center field too. I just thought that was, every time I see him talked about, it's always the center field.
He's a good athlete.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a good athlete for sure. I mean, but I just think it's interesting now, especially, I'm sure deGrom too, but especially Judge. I feel like he can just, like, he's going to get paid and he can basically go where it depends what he wants for the rest of his career, right? Like, does he want to be the captain of the Yankees and go down as one of the Yankee greats and follow that trajectory and keep trying to win a World Series there and be really rich? There it is. That's the draw of going back to New York. Or does he want to go back out west and be closer to home where he grew up and make all that money and do something new and try to win out there? All right, he's going to be able to do this. So really, it's what does he want? Does he want that Yankee legendary captain kind of status, or does he want something else?
Yeah. I think he should do it like a contract like Carlos Correa had, where it's like really big and it's an exorbitant amount of money, but there's just there's an opt out after every year. It'd be like a 10-year deal with like 10 opt outs. I think you should do that.
Oh my goodness. Go
Those
sign
contracts are
with
the
the
best.
Kansas City
Just
for 50 million for a year and opt out after year one.
Please, yeah, whoever his agent is, just think about it. How much fun would that be? Every single year we get to the Aaron Judge sweepstakes. I mean, it wouldn't be great for the team that he was with for that 1 year because he's obviously not coming back. But that's the risk you take when you sign an opt out laden contract. So that's it. That wow. I'm now I don't care where he signs as long as there's an opt out after every year. Sign me up.
Oh, that's not good business, Aaron. Don't do that.
Aaron, you keep betting on yourself every single year. I don't know. Kirk Cousins did. I keep doing all these football references, but yeah, Kirk Cousins with the Washington team there. Every year, just figuring it out year by year. It's keep doing it like that. I think it's a bad idea. In some other kind of free agency news, the Angels and Shohei Ohtani are back in the news again. So the Angels GM Perry Manazian spoke to reporters at the annual GM meeting in Vegas, and he said they have no plans to trade Shohei Ohtani this offseason. Shohei's back on a 1-year deal for $30 million to avoid arbitration. The Angels are interesting. I'll put it that way. They haven't put a winning record together since Ohtani joined the team in 2018. And there's Artie Moreno is just trying to sell the team right now. So is this like a negotiating tactic for this GM to say, oh, we're not trading him? Or do you actually think they're going to keep him?
I think it's a little bit, it's kind of weird. A little bit of both. Like they're trying to sell the team, right? So they're definitely not trying to say, well, you're not getting Ohtani to go with it. So I think that's definitely part of it. I think they will, be perceived in a bad way if they trade Ohtani, just trade the two-way sensation of like all time. Not a great look. But at some point, I guess they got to be realistic too and be like, he's starting to say things and make it sound like he doesn't want to be here. And if he's going to walk, we'd rather get some serious prospects or whatever in return instead of him just walking away and we get nothing anyway. So at that, we've got to see how the season plays out.
Yeah. It's just, it's interesting to me for this team to be as bad off as they are. And for everybody around baseball to see how bad this team is. And then for them to be like, oh, we're going to draw a line in the sand on this one, putting our foot down. He's not dealing this guy. It's like, you just saw what the Padres gave up for Juan Soto, and everybody called that the deal of the generation. So, I mean, imagine what a team would give up for even just a year of this two-way pitching, hitting monster of a man. Yeah, it's just, that blows my mind. So we're going to mark this one down as him saying they're not going to trade him today in early November. And then we're going to look in like 2 months from now when they actually do trade him. We're going to say, yeah, I told you so. Yeah, Perry. I knew you weren't being completely true with us at that point. So, yeah, that's another storyline. We got the Judge saga. We got the Ohtani saga. It's a lot of stuff, but in terms of this podcast saga, we have our Fudge-Ing Awesome Moment of the week.
Our Fudge-Ing Awesome Moment of the week is brought to you by our sponsor, the original Fudge Kitchen. They ship fudge and sweet treats all over the country. You can find them at fudgekitchens.com. I had the fudge a couple weeks ago. I have one little piece left, so I need to order some more soon. It is unbelievable. Lasted me probably 3 weeks too, because it's tasty and they have a lot of different flavors. So go check them out at fudgekitchens.com. Philly, Jersey Shore listeners, if you're down there, it's always a nice time to go down the Jersey Shore, JA, this time of year because nobody's there. It's nice and quiet. It's still the beach, still the ocean. If you're down, they have locations in Stone Harbor, Wildwood, North Wildwood, Ocean City, and Cape May. That's the original Fudge Kitchen, and you can find them online at fudgekitchens.com.
Hey, I mean, the weather up in this part of the country has been pretty awesome lately. So yeah, I could see that. There's like some random 75-degree days sprinkled in here. So absolutely, that's gonna be a great thing for people in the Philly Jersey Shore area. So I had one of two things that we could have done for this week's Fudge and Awesome Moment of the Week. I was at first, I'm like Mattress Mac, the Houston guy down there who won like $75 million betting on the Houston Astros. But then I was like reading about it, and it's like he's gonna break even because he took out all these big bets as like a hedge against this gigantic furniture sale. So he's like gonna break even. So it's like not that cool. You read, oh, $75 million this guy won. It's like it's not that cool. So I didn't want to go with that for this week, but I do have a cooler one, and my Washington Nationals bias is going to come into play here because one of my favorite players for so many years growing up was Trea Turner, and he's a free agent this offseason. I think it's the first time he's a free agent too. I can't think he's been a free agent before this. He's had a monster of the year this year. He's like a career 300 hitter, shortstop. He's the best. His agency, CAA Baseball, they decided to create a hype video, and they got Jon Hamm, the Mad Men guy, to narrate it. And I'm so confused. Like, there's like, if you watch the video, we put it out on our Twitter feed at Breaking Bats Pod, and it's been tweeted out everywhere. There's just like things in it, like, quote, since 2019, he's been the second best position player in baseball, according to Fangraphs, with a 21.1 F/WAR. You have the opportunity to change the direction of your franchise with a centerpiece. And I'm just like, why was this a thing? Why did we need a hype video for Trea Turner? Who doesn't know how good Trea Turner is? I was so taken aback by this, but damn, it's cool to have Jon Hamm narrated it. So I don't know. What do you think about having celebrities narrate just megastar baseball guys' like free agency hype videos?
I'm with you. Like, this is Trea Turner. This isn't some rando. Like, what GM needs an introduction to Trea Turner in the MLB? Like, this isn't me sending out like huddle videos on Twitter of my highlights. This is Trea Turner. Come on, we don't. This is, I don't know. It's like so cheesy. It's awesome and hilarious at the same time. I don't even like what they're gonna, once he gets his crazy deal, they're gonna like point to this video and be like, yep, that's what did it. Final nail in the coffin right there. Locked it up. But hilarious. I mean, good for them. The Mattress Mac thing is funny though, because did you see that video of the people like him yelling F you to people in Philly?
Yeah.
Dude, I saw that and I'm like, does this guy, first of all, you're just advertising how much money that you like bet on this game, and you think you're just gonna waltz into Philly with all these like Northeast Philly, shout out Northeast Philly where I grew up. I say this in the most loving way. These Northeast Philly scumbags are gonna see you in your jersey, like knowing that you put all this money on the game and they're not gonna heckle you. Like, get out of here, bro. These dudes are gonna see you and just light you up. So I was dying when I saw that video. I'm like, yep, that's it right there. And he's all mad, like, what he thought they were gonna be like, hey man, really hope you win your $75 million bet. Like, get out of here. I would love to know like what was the beginning of that video, because it was so Philly. It was just phenomenal.
Yeah, it's such a great clip. Yeah, I mean, Mattress Mac he's an old guy though, so people should. I wouldn't
Yes.
like be giving it to Mattress Mac the way that the people on the concourse at the bank did. So, but I don't know. It was funny watching him kind of snap back because he had all that anger kind of pent up. That wasn't the first time that day he had been heckled, so he just had to blow a gasket and let it out.
Listen, and I take that back. They probably weren't from Northeast Philly. They're probably from Delco. Heck on them. So my Philly people will understand that reference. But anyway, that's neither here nor there.
It's a great clip. We that was our runner up this week for Fudge and Awesome Moment of the Week. But I had all this talk of hype videos and Jon Hamm. Like, also, I just think it would be hilarious if there was one GM who came out and was like, I was on the fence about this Trea Turner guy, but then I watched I was binge watching Mad Men, and then I saw Jon Hamm do this video. I was like, damn, yeah, let's get CAA on the phone. Let's get Trea over here. But if you were to have a hype video created like this, who would you like to narrate it?
That is a great question. I think it would probably be Mark Wahlberg or Matthew McConaughey, and I'd probably lean towards Matthew McConaughey now that I think about it. But Wahlberg would be a pretty good one too.
McConaughey's a great one. That's
I'm a
you
big
you
McConaughey guy.
absolutely. I keep telling myself I'm going to read his Green Lights book every time I walk past it in like Target. I'm like, that today's the day. Haven't done it yet. Christmas time is coming though, so mom and dad, if you're listening to this,
I'll send it to you for Christmas. There you go. Who
oh,
would do yours?
that's I don't know a Justin Ayers hype video. It's got to be the voice has to be recognizable. I don't know. I would probably just hire like Frank Caliendo. Maybe just have him do like a series of voices. I don't know. I feel like that would just be
I could see Nick Saban doing yours.
Nick Saban. He's a good one.
Yeah,
I
think
like
he'd be a good one for you.
I like Joey Molinaro's impression of Nick Saban more than I like the actual Nick Saban. So shout out Joey Molinaro.
It's a good one.
Yeah. He's just when he does like the SEC coaches like video call or whatever, it's the funniest shit ever. So yeah. I would probably have a compilation of just Frank Caliendo running down the list of every voice he does, like Chris Berman, yeah, Ron Jaworski, all of them, every Caliendo. So if I ever need one, Frank, I'm coming to you, buddy. So we're talking all about Trea Turner. We're talking about all about this free agency stuff, but this free agency shortstop bonanza that's going on this offseason, it is loaded. I can't remember a time where there's been this many like great, like in the prime of their career, people at the same position hitting the market at the exact same time. Dansby Swanson, Carlos Correa, Xander Bogaerts, they're all like late 20s, prime of their career. Like, am I alone in thinking that? Like, do you ever remember a free agency run like this that we're about to see for guys like this?
Not off the top of my head, shortstop. I mean, those are four really good players right there, and all coming off very good years. I'm very interested to see who ends up getting the most money or best deal, whatever you want to say, out of these guys. I think is very interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting. So out of the four guys that I just listed there at shortstop, who do you think's the most likely to return back to their old team?
Bogarts. It'd be a toss up between him and Swanson. Actually, I'm gonna take that back. I'm gonna go with Swanson. I think the Braves, they have all those other guys locked up, right? We've talked about that. Tough to lose Swanson there because he's really turned into a very good hitter, very consistent. He's been awesome for them. So I don't think they can lose him. Bogarts is definitely. I think Turner and Correa are both somewhere else. Bogarts, I think he ends up back in Boston, but I do think other teams are really going to make a run at him. And I don't know. It seems between him and Devers, not either of them not signing an extension, and the fact that Boston already has Trevor Story there, who could slide over to shortstop, and if that's what happens, like I don't know. It just seems weird that Bogarts and Devers are both not signed, and I don't know. I feel like they're a little not happy about that. What do you think?
I would agree. Yeah, the Boston situation is interesting. How funny would it be though for Dansby Swanson and the Braves? It wouldn't be funny for Dansby Swanson, but how funny would it be for the Braves to do what they did for Freddie Freeman, and then they just they don't bring Freddie back, but then they just bring in like an equal, if not better, like replacement. Like if the Braves didn't re-sign Dansby, but then they went out and signed Trea Turner for a crap ton of money. Like, I think that would just be. I don't know. Maybe that's just the way they operate. It's like, we don't do the homegrown talent. We don't take our stars back. We'll take somebody else's stars. I don't know. Could be funny.
Man, that would be interesting. And I think Trea Turner's an NC State guy. I think he's from down south somewhere, so he probably liked that.
He has said he wants to be on the East Coast again, I think. I keep hearing the Phillies sniffing around on Trea Turner. I don't think that's going to happen. We can clip this and you can make me sound like an idiot if he ever signs in Philly, but why would the Phillies be sniffing in on Trea Turner if they have Bryson Stott, who they like a lot, they've trusted in big situations in the playoffs? Like, why would that make sense?
Well, they didn't pick up Segura's option, who was playing second base for him, so you slide one of those two guys over to second base. And Segura's option was almost $18 million, so it wasn't exactly cheap. I don't know what he made this year, but the Phillies got close, man. They got really close. And Dave Dombrowski, the GM, is there to win. And I believe Middleton's the owner. He wants to win too. So I don't know, man. That'd be wild. Phillies, what a team, what a lineup that would be if you put Trea Turner in that lineup.
It wouldn't be fair. And then to watch him and Harper in the lineup, in the same lineup again, but in Philadelphia, I don't know what I would do. It would just be tough. I don't know if my heart could take seeing that. It's been tough enough trying to like deal with my emotions with Bryce Harper being in Philadelphia, and like it's like I want him to do well, but also I don't want him to do well. So yeah, I'm firmly against that. So yeah, I'm just I'm excited for this free agency shortstop class to figure itself out. Hopefully, I want one of these big guys to sign at the winter meetings, because I always watch the winter meetings coverage on MLB Network, and like I feel like it's been a kind of a lackluster performance at the winter meetings for a while. We need a big name. Like give me Trea Turner back to the Nationals at the winter meetings. Why not?
Well, last year was always that's not happening. But last year was a weird year because of the CBA and stuff. But I'm sorry, I didn't mean to shoot you down like that.
No,
you never know. It might happen. Yeah. It could happen. It could happen.
I have a pirate shirt on today, so this is very confusing for probably everybody else besides me. So
he could go to Pittsburgh. Who knows? It could happen.
Yeah. Trea's played second before in LA. Have him and O'Neal Cruz, the best up the middle play double play combo of baseball.
Maybe he wants to go play with O'Neal Cruz. Who knows?
It's a big draw. He's also a big guy, so
maybe
there's something to that as well. Big draw. Pittsburgh. Don't count him out in the free agency market this offseason. All right. So last but not least, this week we have our top 5 to clean up last week's top 5, which was the most unlikely postseason heroes. I won 66-34. I'm sorry. But it's a new week. Got a whole new list for you guys coming out. So this week, though, talking all about free agency. I love baseball free agency. It's my favorite free agency of all the 4 major sports. We're going to be doing the top 5 best under the radar free agent hitters. And we'll probably follow this up at some point with the best under the radar free agent pitchers. All right. Number 5, I'm going with our guy. I'm going with Frazier, Adam Frazier. I watched what he did in the playoffs. This year in Seattle, it's not been a traditional Adam Frazier type year, but I have faith that he'll be able to turn it around, whatever team he goes to in 2023. Just a great clubhouse guy. We got to get it back on the podcast too. So, Adam Frazier is my number 5. My number 4, it's Matt Carpenter. We all saw the renaissance he had this season in New York. He was hitting well over 300 for most of the season. He's getting older in age, but that might be a good thing though. You can get him on like a 1 or 2 year deal, have him play DH. He figured that swing out again. And I have faith in Matt Carpenter. So yes, Matt Carpenter is number 4. Number 3, it's going to be your guy, Jurickson Profar. I look at what he did this season in San Diego, a 3.1 WAR. You can kind of move him around a little bit, a little position versatility. And he had a 111 OPS plus. So a little bit above league average for Jurickson Profar. And then number 2, it's my guy. It's Trey Mancini, formerly of the Orioles, most recently with the Astros. Let's just put the bad postseason aside for a second. Trey is a leader in the clubhouse. He still has very good power. Any team would be lucky to have him on their team for 2023. So Trey Mancini is my number 2. And my number 1, and I put him at number 1 because I feel like he's going to get lost in the shuffle of outfielders this offseason. We're all going to be talking about Aaron Judge. Where is he going? I'm looking at Andrew Benintendi. No, I'm my number 1 pick. He's this guy's only 28 years old too, which is, I feel like that's a young-ish age. I feel like be hitting free agency. I feel like a lot of guys are like, late 20s, early 30s. 304 average this past season. So that is my list. What do you think?
I like it. I have Profars on my list as well. So I'll put him 5th on my list. And then after that, number 4, I have Michael Conforto, who sat out this whole year with a shoulder injury. Kind of a weird little story there. Not totally sure what happened, but has been a staple in that Mets lineup for a while now. It had some good years. So him coming back, he's number 4. Number 3, I went with our Japanese friend who we talked briefly about, Yoshida Masataka. Played against him all year in Japan. Really good. I mean, over there, I thought was the best hitter over there. little guy, really good power, like can hit balls far. But just very good. Wasn't I said this to you before we started filming. Um, not I don't know if he was hurt or what, but really wasn't moving well. Wasn't playing the outfield very much. So that'll be interesting. So I'm just kind of interested. It came out of nowhere to me that he was going to come here. So I'm just interested to see what kind of deal he gets and how it ends up being, because it's just so different, the styles of the games and of the pitching. So I'm just interested to see what happens there. And Japanese hitters typically, haven't had a ton of success lately. So he's number 3. Number 2 is going to be Jock Peterson. Just like gets it done. I don't know. People just overlook him. I don't know. I think he kind of bothers people, especially after the Pearls or whatever. But dude can hit, can flat out hit, and is going to help whatever team he's on next. And then number 1 for me, I feel maybe he's not on the radar. It's Xander Bogaerts. I feel like casual fans don't really know who he is, and he's unbelievable. And if the Red Sox don't sign him, he's going to make another team very happy, and they're going to have a very good shortstop because that dude rakes. So he's my number 1. But they're all I thought all those guys are pretty interesting just to see how it shakes out for them.
Yeah, that's what I love so much about free agency, is that like sometimes you have kind of these under the radar signings that have gigantic impacts the next season. So it's all about kind of like, diamonds in the rough, if you want to call them. But yeah, I mean, Xander Bogaerts, that's a pretty good pick. He's a 292 lifetime hitter. He's always played, like, he's always in like 150 plus games a year range. He's model of consistency with like 33 home runs sprinkled in there randomly at one point. So yeah, we're going to talk a lot about Trea Turner at shortstop. We're going to talk about Carlos Correa, obviously, for good reason. But you're right. Let's not forget about Xander Bogaerts there. And also, I just completely forgot Michael Conforto was even like a player. So that's under the radar.
It was he was actually the first guy. I'm like, all right, who's under the radar? And I was like, holy shit, Michael Conforto. Forgot about him. Perfect. He was a good hitter, man. So if he's healthy, he might have to take a minor league deal or something.
Reestablish,
base it off that. Yeah, but I mean, he'd still make a lot of money. Boris is his agent; they'll figure it out. But yeah, I don't know. That was a interesting whole story going on there last year.
No doubt. Anyway. All right. We have 2 last quick things, and then we'll get to our interview for this week. We wanted to give a shout out to friend of the podcast, Actions Over Words. It's an apparel brand with the mission of encouraging people to use their actions instead of their words. They donate $5 of every sale to charities around the world. So check them out at actionsoverwordsapparel.com and use our promo code N4L, 10% off of your entire order, tees, hats, hoodies, and more. And finally, check out the Not For Long Media family of podcasts. We have tons of great content for you guys. Colin Thompson's show. We also, 2 Girls, 1 League, Harry Mays and Jason Mercedes have a podcast called G's on our network too. So lots of great stuff to check out. So be sure to check out Not For Long Media family of podcasts. Interview for this week. I taped it a little bit ago. It's a Justin Solo special. His name is Johnny Magliozzi. He pitched at University of Florida. That's how we knew Colin. So shout out the guy, Colin Thompson. 17th round pick by the Mets in 2013. He played in their minors until 2018. It's really cool. He's an underclass scout for the Mets. So he's looking at guys that aren't draft eligible, which is, I didn't know a ton about it. Have you ever, did you work with an underclass scout? Did you know what that was before? Because I didn't know.
No, I didn't know there was a distinction between the two. My guy from the Reds was I just thought that's how it was. Like, you go and you see, you're like, oh, that guy's pretty good. Let's watch him, So yeah. That's interesting that they have the 2 different kind of classifications there.
Yeah.
These 2.
It's cool. Yeah. I think it's like a 30-minute-ish interview. We talked, he obviously being in the New York Mets system, being a University of Florida guy, brought up Tim Tebow for a little bit. So we talked about playing with Tim Tebow when he played baseball with him there for a couple of years. So it's a really cool conversation. So with that being said, let's send it over to our interview with Johnny Magliozzi. All right. Joining us this week on Breaking Bats, we have a very special guest, Johnny Magliozzi, former collegiate minor league pitcher, current underclass scout for the Mets. Johnny, so good to finally have you on here, dude. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, dude. So I want to take it back to University of Florida to start.
I was going back and I was looking at those teams that you were on back in 12 and 13, just loaded with MLB talent like Mike Zunino, Harrison Bader. Like, did you know from like the first time you visited UF that like this is the place that I want to be?
I didn't actually. I did a lot of visits. I kind of, narrowed it down to 5 schools. I wanted to be in the SEC. I also kind of potentially wanted to be in the ACC as well. I thought those 2 conferences of the Power Five were just kind of where I fit in, just because they were on the coast where I grew up. So went to Florida. I fell in love with Sully and his personality, and I kind of just went with it and rolled the ball and got out there and had a blast.
It's like it must be University of Florida week on this podcast. We just had Sean Anderson on yesterday, or 2 days ago, and it's just like hearing all about just like the quality of like the guys you're playing with, the facilities, just like it feels like a great experience. Like when you think back to those teams that you were on at UF, like who are some of the most talented teammates that stood out to you?
Oh, that's a good question. My freshman year, Paco Rodriguez really stood out. Just kind of a different type of kid. Stuff wise, was really, really good pitcher. And it made sense when he got drafted. And I think he made it to the big leagues within like 45 days. It was pretty crazy. So he was pretty special. Preston Tucker was special. Noah Fontana. That team was pretty dang good when I got there.
So, what were the lessons that you learned at the University of Florida that kind of stuck with you in your collegiate after your post collegiate career?
Baseball, it can break you down, and there's a lot of kind of negative outcomes in it. So for me, it was having a short-term memory, especially with my freshman year. I had a roller coaster year, so it was tough to be consistent. And then I got to go to the summer where I was kind of like in a relaxed atmosphere, and I didn't have to compete as much. I could just kind of go out there and have fun, and that kind of helped me out a lot. But my freshman year, having a short-term memory and just kind of figuring out what works for you and building a routine is kind of going to help you in the long run be a better pitcher.
Did you also pitch in the College World Series?
I didn't. I actually got hot 5 times. That's kind of 4 or 5 times. That's my running joke is that I got hot. I got hot the most in the College World Series, so I warmed up a bunch. Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, you're still there. I mean, what was that experience like?
It was pretty cool. The bullpen mound was unbelievable, man. It was really, really nice.
Top tier. So Colin Thompson's the one that obviously set this one up. So shout out Colin. So like, when was like the first time you remember meeting the boy?
Geez, this is 8 years ago now, going on 9. But the first time I met him, I think we were getting lunch or something, or it might have been in the cafeteria. We kind of just talked hockey. He was a big Flyers guy, and I was a big Bruins guy. And he was just bouncing back and forth and telling me who's the best and who's the best, and I was just telling him the Flyers. They haven't been anything since the Broad Street Bullies. So
Yeah, no, he big hockey guy, Colin. He also said to mention, he said bring up any Florida party stories. So
yeah,
anything safe for air that any good times with him till up until like 3 a.m. drinking beers.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think 3 a.m. is a good cutoff time, but yeah, we had a good one. It was at my house. It was 2 of my roommates. We were like upperclassmen at the time. It was a Halloween party. It was like a themed Halloween party. A lot of the football guys came over. A lot of athletes were there. I want to say over 200 people were there. We had a big backyard. So the party started at like 7 or 8, and then like we floated probably about 6 to 8 kegs. It was pretty impressive. And then at 11 o'clock we had nowhere else to go, and people were like, let's go to Midtown. But I mean, the house that we were in was a mess, so we had to kind of hang back, and I was in my tiger suit or something. That was a crazy one.
Was that common though for baseball and football guys to all get together and do that kind of stuff?
Yeah, everyone kind of got along. There was never any bullshit within the athletes. I don't think there was any drama. I kind of steered away from all of that stuff. You never want to get get in any trouble off the field. Everyone was looking to have a good time and stay safe. So just kind of relax a little bit outside of the athletic competitions.
That's really cool though. I mean, a decade later, you and Colin are still seem like you're still pretty cool. So I mean, that's really cool that you guys had that experience. Um, Going to draft day though. So 17th round in 2013. Like, was that right roughly where you thought you were gonna go? Like, what was that experience like?
Oh, that's the draft's pretty stressful situation. I thought I was going to go a little earlier. Out of college, I thought I was going to go in the 6 to 10 round range. Especially like the 7th, 8th, 9th, but it didn't happen. And the third day came, and I was getting calls the night before, and people were texting me and asking me questions, and I was trying to answer to the best of my knowledge. And then the Mets called me and they wanted to draft me, and I told them no because 3 picks later the Reds were going to draft me, and I was looking to get a little bit of more money. So I told the Mets, don't draft me. I won't take it, because it was like $75,000 more. And they called back again. They go, we're going to take it. I'm like, please don't take me. Please don't take me. And they actually did. And then we negotiated a little bit. And then as we move forward, I signed on the last day. So I ended up signing with the Mets. And that's kind of where my story went from there.
I don't. Is that common for guys to be in that situation where you're telling teams like, hey, like thanks but no thanks? I don't think I've ever heard of anything like that.
Yeah. I mean, there's I you see it kind of all the time. There's a lot of pre-draft deals. I don't know, necessarily with the draft now, but there are a lot of pre-draft deals in baseball where kids will just like fall to the 4th round, and then they'll get paid like $4 million. So they're like, okay, why was this kid not a first round? He's a top 20 talent. Yeah. But it's all about timing. The pool of money that teams have, and there's different types of variables that go into it.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I mean, I'm an Orioles fan, and we keep hearing the term underslot every time a draft comes around. And like as a fan, it's like the not sexy thing to do. It's like, hey, let's take somebody lower on the draft board for cheaper, but like we're gonna ball out in like the middle rounds. And like as a dumb fan, we're just like, no, I want that guy. He's really, really good. Like the draft process and just the behind the scenes stuff. That's fascinating.
Yeah. It's man, it's from me being on this side of it, I'm still kind of learning about it. It's pretty interesting. It's a pretty interesting concept, and it's it's teams competing with each other and seeing their boards. Everybody's board's different. Everybody's timing is different. Where they see guys selected is different. And then they have all these mock drafts and all these, I don't know, all these people making mock drafts. So it's no one's ever right on any pick. So it's pretty much a gamble and it's a crapshoot, and it's tough. It's really hard.
Yeah, I mean obviously from a fan's perspective, people think of like, well, the NFL draft is pretty cut and dry. Like you draft a guy, you plug him in, but it's like MLB draft. It's like you're drafting on like potential, especially with like high school kids. Do you like the kind of the spectacle it's become more so now, like where they have it as like a big event weekend as opposed to like back in a stuffy room in Secaucus, New Jersey?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's pretty cool. It's a special couple of days. It's for kids. So I mean, that's kind of what it's all about. I'm not like the big bells and whistles guy. I'm not really into that, but other generations are. I feel like it's a good opportunity for kids to kind of get their name out and get their social media built up. So I think that's kind of what it's about. And it helps organizations get these guys to be the face of the new generation. So I think it helps them as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that's right on it. So there's a couple guys that you play with in the Mets minor league system that I wanted to like talk to you a little bit about. The first one was Pete Alonso. Like, as also Florida guy, like, could you tell in the minors, like, this guy is going to be like something special?
Oh yeah. Pete was, Pete, everyone kind of, looks at Pete and they're like, wow, he's such a good hitter. He's such a good hitter. And he's got so much power. But behind the scenes, where Pete worked his butt off was defensively. Every single day he'd be out there for early work, and every single day he'd be asking questions about how he can get better at first base and what he needs to do to get better at first base. And, I think Pete every year could hit 320 if he wanted to, but I mean, he's such a good hitter, and it's not that, I don't know how to explain it, but it's not that he likes getting out, but he really just knows how to hit. He knows how to value, his position and his role. And man, he's got some real power. He hit actually the furthest ball I've ever seen. I think it was 2016 in high A, hit it over the scoreboard in Port St. Lucie, and we tracked it down, we measured it, and I think it was like close to 500, 520. It was unbelievable. It was on the backfield in spring training behind the facility. It was crazy.
That's really cool. He brought up the all around part of his game. You're right. I think that gets, the hitting probably overshadows that a little bit. But the other thing that I saw on Instagram, he was hosting was it like Pete Alonso's Night of Comedy or something? He got up on the mic for a little bit. He seems like one of the under the radar funny guys. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I mean he's just goofy. He's goofy. So him walking around is funny to me. Like things that he take, like the home run derby, like that's funny to me that he's taking it so serious. I mean, it is for a lot of money, but like that, he's dead serious, which is, I think that's funny. I mean, people just go out there to have fun, and he's competing. And I think that's kind of, it goes back to his makeup, and, off the field, he's a funny kid. He's goofy, he likes to have fun, and he's a great kid. He's had an awesome career, man. I'm happy for him.
Yeah, the Zen face with the eyes closed during the home run derby. I was like, dang, this guy, it's not just some fun event. This is real.
Yeah, it was definitely serious for him.
The other one that I wanted to talk about, which is probably my favorite, is Tim Tebow. So how long were you teammates with him?
Tim and I were teammates for 2 years. He was behind me, and then he caught up to me. So I think we played in high A, and then we played in double A together. So
when you first saw him on the field, again, another Florida guy, what did you think about his baseball ability the first time you saw him?
He was strong. I thought he was pretty strong. I think he struggled a little bit defensively. He was still trying to learn and grasp. I mean, pro baseball is no joke. So it was tough for him to kind of come off the streets and go play in the outfield at a fast pace. And then for him to see the consistent pitching, not only in rookie ball, but all the way to double A. And he did all right. I thought he did okay for getting out of bed and playing professional baseball. It's not easy.
Absolutely. Yeah, because I think he had said he hadn't swung a bat or played baseball since he was a junior in high school or something. So you're that from that aspect. Yeah, I mean, he, people made fun of the ball hit him in the face and he tripped on stuff and whatever. But for you said, somebody who it's been a decade and he's out there grinding. I thought that was really cool. But what was the behind the scenes stuff? What was he like as a teammate? What was he like in the locker room?
He's a good guy. He works hard. He takes his conditioning and his lifting very serious. So he was kind of just grinding at that. He'd stay to himself. After games, I think he lived alone and went on his own thing. We hung out a couple times. He bought us a couple spreads. He brought us to PDQ, I think, in Gainesville at one time. So yeah, he's a good guy, man. He cares about what he does. Whatever he's doing, he's going to put 100% effort into getting better, into working at it for sure.
What was it like going on the road though? Because I remember when Tebow Mania came to my little town in Maryland, where I think it was the Columbia Fireflies were in town, and they packed the stadium. There was lines around the block just to get in. From your perspective, being on the team with him, what did you think about Tebow Mania?
Yeah, it was in high A. It wasn't as much. In double A, it wasn't as much as either. I don't think a lot South Carolina, that was kind of the southeast range where he played a lot of his college games. And then when you got to Florida, you'd have a couple sellouts and stuff. And then when you got to Binghamton, it was kind of double A baseball. So you're not getting a bunch of crowds in Binghamton, but I don't know if that was a shock to him or what. But I know Columbia, they did really, really well with ticket sales and Tebow. So I'm not really sure, but high A and double A wasn't anything crazy. But you'd have some crazy fans and maybe screaming and stuff and asking you questions. Kind of just keep to yourself and be a professional.
That's interesting. Yeah, I didn't even think about that. Yeah, I guess as time wore on, I guess I guess it was at first the novelty of it. It's oh crap, he's here. But now I guess you're right. Yeah, it's okay, it's been a couple years. Probably Tebow Mania's tapered off a little bit. One last one. So I mean, I think he was an all-star in AA with Binghamton. Was it cool like watching him progress? Like the average went up, the home runs started flying. Like when you're watching him get better and better, was that just cool from your perspective?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the biggest thing from me was the defense. It was always kind of, I don't know. It was a little bit. I don't want to say sketchy out there, but it was just it wasn't like he's a Gold Glove outfielder, so you don't really trust him in the outfield, but you know he's going to work hard and go hard at every ball. From the hitting standpoint, I think he got better quicker. The power was there. He limited the swing and miss, so the average started to go up. I think he had a pretty good year. Those in betweeners where he just fight off a ball, end of the bat, getting jammed. He's so strong, they would just drop and land. And he did well. He worked hard, and he was a good teammate. Nothing you can ask more.
I love it. Yeah, I really wish you would have got called up to the big leagues there. So going back to you for a second, you retired from baseball in 2018. So take me through what happened after, and then when did scouting come into play?
Yeah, so I got released in AA during the All-Star break, and I just decided that I was kind of done. I had some family things going on, and I was just personally just burnt out. And going into that spring training, I was kind of, contemplating what I should do. And a lot of friends and family said, "Go play and see what happens." So I go back, I get released. I was dating a girl in Georgia. I moved down here. I take a job with the Georgia Bombers. I was doing all the pitching stuff and doing private lessons. Did that for like 3 years. Started coaching the 17-year-old program down here. We went from a non-ranked team to the last 2 years. We were ranked in the top 10, I think 6 and 8. We won a bunch of games, a bunch of championships with amateur baseball. Sent about, I'd say, 50 kids Division One, and then a bunch of kids D2, D3, JUCO. We've had a couple kids drafted. One kid signed last year, Mari Daniel with the Minnesota Twins. This upcoming year, we hope to have a couple more guys drafted. In February of 2022, I took an underclass supervisor job with the Mets. So I'm doing scouting with the New York Mets for the year before draft, which is pretty interesting, and it's pretty different to be on this side of baseball. So it's been fun. I've got to travel around the Southeast, the Northeast. I've been out west to California. I've been in Texas. I put miles on rental cars, and it's been really cool. I really enjoy it, and it's been a good career so far. I actually just moved organizations from the Bombers to the TGD backs with hopes of a 7-field facility and a 2,600 square foot facility. So I'm excited about the future, and hopefully good things to come.
That's awesome, dude. Congratulations.
Thank you.
The whole concept of underclass scouting is something that, like, before you had mentioned it, I don't think I had heard a lot about it or really knew a lot about it. So like, what does your job consist of with that? So like, what's the day-to-day like?
So it's a new position. The Mets are, I think, going above and beyond any organization in the country to be the best. Their scouting department was unbelievable before they even started this position. So I'm just pretty thankful that they gave me an opportunity. But so a day-to-day position for me, right now we're kind of slow. I'm just doing a lot of reports and follows, catching up on expenses. But for like a weekend, an ST weekend, Tennessee versus Florida, I would go watch them, and I'd watch the guys that aren't drafted. I'd do like a pro report on them. I'm looking for tools, run, hit, power, arm strength, plate discipline, all the tools that go into being a professional baseball player and projecting these kids and where you see them. I write a report on those kids, throughout the week, and I just redo it every weekend. And as an amateur, we're going to, amateur travel events throughout the summer. These perfect game, PBR events, area codes, East Coast Pro, workouts. There's so many events, and we're trying to get them all and get players in to our database that, when these guys go to look to draft them, we have reports on them from 6 years ago, 8 years ago, 5 years ago. So it's pretty smart, and it's been pretty successful so far. This is my first year, and it was a big learning curve, and I'm excited about the growth of it.
I love that. So draft eligibility. So I think in college, you're draft eligible after you're a junior, right? And then when do you get draft eligible when you're in high school?
So high school, your senior year, you're draft eligible. In college, it was within 45 days of being 21, but now they put a specific date on that. So I think it's August 1st. So if you're 45 days within August 1st of being 21, I think you're draft eligible. So you see with COVID, you're seeing a lot of, reclass high school guys, older college players. So they're all starting to come. You see freshman eligible drafts, you see sophomore eligible drafts, and then with the COVID eligibility, this kid's a high school, college senior, but he's 25 years old. So it's like it's crazy. COVID kind of threw everything for a loop with age and draft wise.
Dang, I didn't even think about that. Yeah, because everybody got that extra year eligibility because of that.
Yep.
So talk about like how did you know, like when you were a player, did you always think you had a good eye for talent, and then did you think that would eventually translate to the scouting game? I'm just curious how you knew that, like, hey, maybe scouting and having an eye for development is something that I could do.
Yeah, so I mean, from my growth as a baseball player, I always liked helping others. I always liked helping my teammates. I was always talking about baseball, and I was always talking about their college experience in pro ball. And then throughout college, like, the coaches aren't always around you. So the guys that get you better are your teammates, because they're around you the most. From when I started thinking about what I was going to do as a career in my life after baseball and transitioning into it, I wanted to be in baseball. I wanted to stay in it. So I got into the travel baseball world where I could develop kids. I'm working with kids, private lessons from 9 to 18 into college and professional guys. And then I'm watching players from high school to college. So it's just, it's been a blessing to me, and I've been very, very lucky. And, I think I'm not the best at it, but I'm getting better at the development side of it. And there's always so much to learn. And with social media these days, you can just see a bunch of things and a bunch of guys that will help you with development. And then you can see a bunch of guys play throughout, the country.
That's a great point. Because with social media now, like anybody who wants to get their highlights out there can. And I imagine when like you were coming up and like your scouting experience, like what did that look like from your end? Like what was your scouting experience like?
It's totally different now. I think there's a little too much video going out on the social media and stuff. And I think there might be some too much events for amateurs where there's kind of overexposure. But my scouting story was I just played travel baseball in Georgia. I did a couple showcases, a couple events. I did the East Coast Pro era coach from a professional standpoint. And then I just got recruited to Florida. He came to one of my games in Georgia, saw me pitch. I went on a visit there. I went on a couple other visits. He saw me pitch again. Sully did when he was recruiting. And then, they offered me, other teams offered me. And, I went from there.
How do you think, or how have you seen the scouting profession evolve over the years? Because one of my favorite movies is Moneyball, and that room where all the scouts are sitting together talking about the guy's girlfriend and lack of confidence. Like, I imagine that was pretty common 20 years ago, but like, I'm wondering how it's kind of evolved since then.
Yeah. Cool. That's, you can get a lot of information on kids throughout their social media. You can see kind of, what type of person they are. And, I always tell the kids that I work with to be careful what you post. And then you can do a lot of background checks on these kids. You can talk to their friends' parents. You can talk to their schools. You can talk to the guidance counselor. You can talk to anybody. There's just so much, so much potential to learn on kids for the good and bad. So it's scary to really think about. You can't really fathom how much information you collect on a person.
I love that. So You mentioned one of the kids that you worked with that was taken with the Twins. So who are some of the other kids that you've worked with, you've scouted, that have gone on to either be drafted or, picked up by a club there?
Scouting, I haven't had one yet because I got hired in February. So the last year was my first year. So next year will be my first year's draft. A couple kids that have got drafted. Amari has got drafted. Eric Snow, a kid, he went to the combine. He didn't get drafted. He'll play pro ball at some point. Riley Stanford, Parker Brocious. There's a bunch of kids that, I've been around that will get an opportunity to play professional baseball for sure. And then their time will come. Chase Dollander was on our scout team in high school. I think, he's projected probably top 10 pick next year. These names, they're all over the place, but yeah, Dollander is definitely a name that's going to get pumped up pretty quick next year.
I love that. I'll have to keep an eye on that. It's cool because, I do this with football where, I like watching college just so I can follow them to the pros. But I feel like more people need to do that with baseball. I think college baseball is getting bigger and obviously that whole circuit. But I think that might be just as much fun. Hey, here's this kid. He might be the next, Mike Trout or whatever. So I think that from that aspect, we need to get better at that as fans.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of baseball fanatics that do that. Andrew Jones' kid just got drafted. His social media was insane before he even got followed. People were texting and tweeting and Instagramming, and it was crazy. Tamar Johnson, another one, and both those guys were top 10 picks. So it was it is. It's just to the it's not as big. But it's tough. It's tough. Baseball will get there. It's such a high-paying sport. We'll see where the future lies.
I love it. All right. Well, do you still keep up with the pros? I have a couple generic, league-wide baseball questions for you to kind of wrap this up.
Yeah, kind of. My life right now has been kind of crazy busy with transitioning into a new company. Then I'm buying a house, so it's been all over the joint right now.
It's all right.
But I've been checking. I follow the Mets mostly.
Well, this is a good one then. So, in terms of the best pure stuff from a pitching standpoint, I mean, obviously Jacob deGrom is probably up there, but I've been watching a lot of Dustin May, and I had the hot take that May has better stuff. Who would you say has the best pure stuff right now in baseball?
deGrom. It's not even close. It's and that's not just because he's a Met. When Jacob deGrom's healthy, he's it's pretty special. The kid Strider as well is really really good. He's kind of came out of nowhere. deGrom does get that low slot, low to high fastball with carry, and then he throws that 93 slider off. And he doesn't even really throw his changeup and curveball. He's a two-pitch guy in the big leagues, which is insane.
Edwin Diaz too. I had no idea he could reach back and touch 103. I knew he threw hard, but I'm like, that's insane.
So I don't know. It looks like Diaz and deGrom or someone has kind of, it could be Hefner. Hefner does a really good job. He's a really cool guy, the pitching coach for the Mets. It kind of looks like Diaz has kind of mirrored what deGrom is doing, that fastball away, up and down, and throwing that slider off. It's just getting so much swing and miss. I mean, his K rate, I haven't checked it in a while, but his K rate is probably around 45-50%, which is you can't even fathom. You can't even fathom that as a fan. This is in the big leagues too.
Yeah. Oh, so as a Mets guy, what do you think it'd come playoff time? deGrom, Scherzer. We just talked about Diaz. Is this the kind of team you think would hold up through a deep playoff run?
Yeah, I mean, they just, it's weird. They're such a good team, and you never know when they're down. They 8th inning, 9th inning, 7th inning. They just find ways to win games. Playoffs is a different animal, but with deGrom and Scherzer, I see them making a deep run. They just beat the Dodgers 2 out of 3, so that was a huge series. The Braves won't go away.
Yeah,
they're really talented, and they're going to get Ozzie back here, so it's gonna be tough. But I think they're in a good situation when go deep in the playoffs for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that Mets Dodgers felt like a playoff series in late August. And I was like, this is the most fun I think I've had watching baseball in a while.
Yeah.
In terms of robot umpires, though, I feel like that gets thrown around a lot. It might even be slowly creeping up on us. Would you be in favor of having robot umpires?
I don't I wouldn't. I think it takes away from the game of baseball. I don't like it. I've seen that kind of the pitch challenge thing in the minor leagues. Yeah, we'll see what happens. I think a lot of rule changes and stuff going into it. I think you just gotta let the game be at the game, and I think they just need to promote the best players a little bit more.
Ooh, okay. That's interesting. Yeah, because again, as a fan's perspective, I'm watching some of these umpires miss 6 inches off the plate and call it a strike. And I'm sure like the hitters don't like it, and then the fans don't like it because it's like, well, we're just getting screwed out of plate appearances here. So I wouldn't be opposed, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you follow. It's human error. It's everywhere in the world. It's human error. So I don't think that's ever going to go away. But there's something I follow on Twitter. It's the umpire scorecards. These guys, man, these percentages that they have, they're pretty damn good. They might miss a couple calls.
Yeah.
But they're pretty damn good. It's crazy. It's crazy to see some of these guys score out every night. Obviously, they're going to make mistakes, but sometimes a hitter can hit a ball out over the fence when the ball's in the dirt. Like Vlad Guerrero used to hit them all the time. Junior hits them. They don't always hit the ball that's right down the middle, inside, outside, up, down, in the zone. They can hit home runs and get hits that the balls are outside. So
it's a good point. Good point. Yeah, I didn't even think about that. Also, that Twitter account is crazy because they do all 30 games, like every umpire, and I'm just like, they must have a staff of hundreds, it feels like.
Yeah, some of these, I don't know how they do it. And they have to have a lot of people on staff for sure that are just monitoring games.
So I didn't even think about that. Yeah, I mean, that's every single night. But the last one I had was that we put this on our social media a while ago. It was Bill Ripken talking about why the league-wide batting average is down. I don't know if you saw this or not. He said it's not because of this crazy velocity. He said he thinks it's because of all the hitters who have the mindset of it's okay if you go 0 for 4 because if you get a fifth plate appearance and you hit a home run, it'll make it all worth it. Like, do you see why? Like, or can you kind of theorize why the league average would be down?
Yeah, I think there's more, guys trying to put the ball in the air a little more. It's tough. The pitching has gotten better. The analytics and the data from both ends, I think the pitching's a little more advanced than the hitting side of it. I think they're kind of learning how to get guys out faster than how guys are supposed to hit these guys. But the scouting report, you see so much scouting report. Everything is starting to transition back to sinker slider down in the zone, and then it was high vert, carry fastballs, tunneling off that pitch. So these hitters can adjust. They can adjust, and then these pitchers have to adjust. It's baseball. It's a game of adjustments. It's not easy. It's really not easy, and especially at that level, it's not easy. So I mean, everyone's trying to find a way to be better at their personal, job. So I don't really have an answer for that. I just know that if you're facing Jacob deGrom, you're probably going for
I like that though. I like the pitcher side of it because Bill Ripken is the hitter who sees it from a different perspective. And then you obviously bring the pitcher side of it. I do think the pitching is probably a little bit more advanced than what the hitters have going on though, right?
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like the third time up, hitters get better off that starter, right? That's kind of the knowledge of it. So I don't know why aren't these hitters? Does the kid stuff change from video because you're seeing it from a visual? So it's tough. I can't answer that question. I've never been in the box in it, so I can't. I've seen pitching, and I know hitting is hard, and I know pitching's hard, and I know baseball's hard. And these guys make it look so easy. There's always going to be arguments for this. I mean, that's kind of what gives people jobs. It's awesome. It's baseball. It's a beautiful sport, man.
It's the best. And this playoff season is going to be the best too. I feel like this would be the best playoff we had in a long, long time.
Yeah, it's going to be crazy. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't have any predictions. I just hope the Mets win.
I love it. Well, dude, this has been a lot of fun. Thank you so much for hopping on. Best of luck with the underclass scouting with the Mets. And what was the other team you said you're working with? It was
the TGD backs.
Yes. Okay. I'll be keeping up with you doing all that stuff. So yeah, like I said, best of luck, dude. And we'll have to get you back on when Brian's here because his Japan schedule is bananas right now.
Yeah, I bet. I bet. Man, it's a grind. That's a grind. But I appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me.
I love it, dude. Well, hey, best of luck, and we'll talk soon.
Awesome. Thank you.